Hey everyone, it's Ryan here finally with another video. This one is about the Canon 17 to 55mm f2.8 image stabilized lens for APS-C or crop sensor cameras. So if you use a full frame camera and it only uses EF mounts, just ignore this video, but if you have a crop sensor camera or are planning on getting one, then stay tuned. Okay, so I just want to preface this video by saying that this is not going to be like a super in-depth analysis of the lens. Like, I'm not going to be having any charts or zooming in on pictures to the nth detail, looking at how well the lens takes images and stuff like that. It's just going to be kind of my personal thoughts and opinions on using the lens, and I'm going to be pointing out some of the good and bad things about this lens well, really it's just kind of like a review of the lens with my opinion on it. So here we go. The first thing that I want to kind of hit on is image stabilization. The image stabilizing device that is in this lens is a little bit older, so it's not going to be the best image stabilization that you've ever seen, but it does well enough and it gets the job done. So if you're trying to use a low shutter speed, then you'll probably do well enough to get down to like 1/10 of a second. If you have a really steady hand, you might be able to get to a even longer shutter speed than that. And if you're recording video, as long as you're just, holding the camera, you're not just like flinging it around or whatever, it should do pretty good. I mean, you will have to hold it and kind of steady it because, again, it's not the best image stabilizer because it is a little bit older, but it does work and it does help. Also, if you're taking any photographs or you're recording any videos at 17mm, the image stabilizer is gonna really help on that. Like, it's gonna almost seem like it's almost gonna kind of seem like it's on a gimbal. It's not gonna be as smooth as the gimbal, but it's gonna be pretty close for a handheld. And again, as long as you're holding it pretty steady and you have a steady hand, you're not just shaking it all over the place, it should work fairly fine. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about on this camera is the autofocus. Now, the autofocus in this lens is fairly good. Again, since it is a older lens, it's not the best currently, but it is pretty good. And it is great for video recording. Obviously right now, I'm recording a video, so whenever I get closer and further, it's tracking my face, and I mean, part of that has to do with the camera, but it also has to do with the lens. So the autofocus says on this lens does work fairly well. It's not super loud. I mean, you can hear it. I don't know if you can hear it on my mic whenever, like, say I put my hand right there and it focuses on my hand, then put it back on my face. I don't think that y'all can hear it. I can't hear it. Well, let's try without me talking. I don't know if you can hear that. Also, with this autofocus, you have full manual focus override. So that way, if you're trying to get a picture or something, or you're recording a video and it just keeps focusing on the wrong thing, it's not focusing on what you want it to, you can just override the focus and, just use the focus ring. Which, talking about the focus ring is pretty good. Like, you're not having to, like, really struggle and grind to turn it or anything, but it's not super loosey-goosey, so you're not just like overshooting everything. I would say that it's tough enough to focus so you're not overshooting, but not too difficult to where it like takes all day. Another thing is, it's not one of those focus rings where you just have to keep turning and turning and turning to get to the focus, but it has a decent turn radius on there. And then with this lens, specifically at 17mm, is very good for if you're trying to get landscape photos or trying to fit a lot into an image. I'm touching the side of the lens right here, so it's not that far away. It's maybe just like 3 feet away, and I'm able to fit like this whole wall over here and like the whole living room into the frame. So again, you can fit a lot in at 17mm, so it's very good for photography and very good for vlogging and recording videos if you need like more wide shot. Now, yes, it's not like a 14mm lens, so you're not going to get like everything in there, but you can get a very good amount. Plus, it is telephoto, so if you need to zoom in on something, you can zoom all the way into 55mm, so that way you will get a decent close-up. Like, so here it is at 17mm right now. We're gonna zoom this sucker in at 55. Hey, how y'all doing? Yeah, it's a little bit too close. We'll scoot that back out because I'm sure y'all want to be right in my face the entire time. So while we're on the topic of it zooming in and out at 55mm, the zoom ring is not, it's kind of like a focus ring. It's not super ridiculously hard to turn, but at the same time, it's not super easy, so that way you're not just like all the way in. Though you can do that with enough force. You're just gonna kind of make your photo shaky, kind of like this. Yeah. Just a little bit of resistance. Also keep in mind the 50 to 55 millimeters, like that kind of little range. I guess you could extend it more to 35 to 55 millimeters. That range is pretty good, and what most people would say is the best range for portraits, for giving it kind of like a natural look that you would see through your eyes. And one thing that I really like about this lens, because I did have a 18 to 55 millimeter lens, it was the kit lens that came with the Canon SL2. The problem with that one though is that the f-stops were 4 and then a 5.6. When you zoom in, your f value would change from a 4 to 5. To a 5.6 whenever you zoom in. I really like that this is a 2.8, just flat out, just all the way to 2.8. So whether you're at 17 millimeters or all the way at 55 millimeters, it's a 2.8. You don't have to worry about the aperture changing on you. It's going to be the same. Also, it being a 2.8 is going to let in a heck of a lot more light than the 4 on the kit lens that I had. So like right now in my house, normally with the kit lens, I'd have to have my ISO at 800, and currently it's at 100. That's a big plus. Now, when it comes to the actual shape, size, weight, whatever of this lens, it's a decent sized lens. It's not like an itty bitty pancake lens. It's certainly bigger than the kit lens, probably twice as long as the kit lens, and like 1.5 times as thick. Certainly heavier because there's a lot more glass in there to have that 2.8 aperture. But I mean, it's certainly not like my 70 to 200, because that thing is freaking heavy. This thing's maybe like a ½ pound to a pound, somewhere in there. Not overly big. I would say that's a decent size for what it does. I'm just gonna say I really like using this lens because since it is a decent sized lens, it's not like ginormous like my 70 to 200. I do try to use it more for photos and videos. Certainly on videos like this, especially since it's 17 millimeter and you can just fit everything in there, and it's not like all the way across the room and I'm having to like yell into my microphone or something. So it is really nice. Again, like I said, I like using it for photos because it's very good to get landscape photos, because I personally am a nature photographer, so I try to get wildlife. That's why I have the 70 to 200 millimeter 2.8, but I also try to get landscapes and sometimes macro, because it's actually, you can use it as a macro lens. It's not like the ideal macro lens, but when you zoom it out to 55 millimeters, and considering that it has a minimum focusing distance of, I think, 1.5 feet or something like that, it does work okay as a macro lens. Also, this lens has the exact same size thread ring for filters and stuff like that as my 70 to 200 millimeter 2.8, which those use a 77 millimeter filters. So it's nice that I can just interchange filters. I don't have to buy new ones for the specific lens. I can just take something off my 70 to 200, put it on my 17 to 55, or vice versa. So now I'm going to talk about some bad things about this lens, because there are some bad things. I do think it's a great lens overall, but there's definitely some things worth noting if you're considering buying this lens. First of all, for what it is an expensive lens. I think when I bought this lens, it was about $800, and I'm pretty certain it's about the same price as when I got it. It's not a professional lens, but it's $800. Some, like I said, like the kit lens, you can get that for like $100, $150. It has almost the exact same zoom range, but it does not have the 2.8 all the way through. It has a variable aperture, and it has a much lower, or I guess higher aperture, however you want to call it. It does not get the 2.8. So yeah, it's kind of expensive for what it is, but really on an APS-C camera, you're really kind of limited on the lenses that you can use, so they in a way kind of price gouge you. Another bad thing, and this is just a very small bad thing, especially since it's a 17 to 55 millimeter, is the barrel sticks out whenever you zoom in. It's not the worst thing in the world, just because it's only like sticking out like that much. It's, I mean, just like 3 or 4 inches. It's not that big of a deal. But you do have to keep in mind, like if you're taking a picture right next to a window or something, that if you zoom in, you're gonna be hitting that glass. Another bad thing about this lens is that they're at 17 millimeters, there is a good amount of vignetting on the edges of your image. I mean, you can fix that in Lightroom and Photoshop, whatever you use. It's just that if you're trying to take a picture right out of your camera, put it on phone, put it on Instagram, that is kind of a bad thing. There is a considerable amount of vignetting on the edges. Also, there can be a fair amount of chromatic aberration, especially if you're taking photos in the direction of the sun. Overall, I do think that this is a good lens. I have enjoyed using it. I've been using it for about a month now. It's been working great. It's been doing everything that I needed it to do. The only drawbacks, again, is that the price is kind of hefty, so you might need to find some alternatives like Tamron or Sigma, but they may not have anything that's cheaper because they're starting to get a little bit more competitive in prices, and they're making their lenses a little more expensive as well. So it may not actually be much cheaper than the Canon lens. Other than those few drawbacks and few negatives, I would highly recommend this lens if you're interested in getting something that's better than a kit lens, and if you have the money for it. If you don't have the money for it, don't worry. I mean, it's not like a miracle lens or something like that, but it is a good one to upgrade to from a kit lens. And I am an affiliate on Amazon, so if you are interested in buying this lens, I will have some links down below that you can find it on Amazon and buy it off there, because they sometimes have some deals where you can buy them for like $100 cheaper or something. I don't know, you just kind of have to find out and keep up with it. Also, before I end this video, I will have some images that I've taken with this lens at the end. You can pause the video and just take a look at them. I have edited them and everything, and I have taken care of the distortion and chromatic aberration and stuff like that, so just keep in mind. But it kind of gives you a sense of how much you can fit into this lens. So, you know, just pause the video when the pictures come up if you want to. Just take a look at them, see how you kind of feel about it or whatever. But if you have liked this review of this lens, then please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. It'll help out my video and my channel. And if you want to see more reviews of lenses, just again, more opinion-based ones, not so much technical ones, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so we can get notifications, since YouTube doesn't like to give out notifications anymore. Also, if you have any questions about this lens or anything that you want to add to it that I may have missed or forgot, or maybe there's just a glaring issue that I haven't run into yet, just say something down in the comment section. I'll be sure to read it, reply back to it if it's a question or something. It's part of the reason why I make these YouTube videos, is to be able to help other people that are kind of, you know, getting started in photography, kind of like I was just a year or so ago. But yeah, so that's all that I have to say about this lens. I'll see you all in the next video.